Hello, welcome everybody. It's 10 a.m. sharp. Um, we are live. We are also live on Facebook. If you're shy, turn off your camera, but I like to see your faces. And maybe, Georgie, would you like to put me in the spotlight? Ooh, I'm in spotlight. You know what? I don't want to be on spotlight. Everybody can be on the spotlight. So, yeah, we are welcoming people in. Georgie is my co-host today. Thank you very much for co-hosting. And let's get everybody in. Just start in the chat. I would love to hear where you're from, because I always like to see where everybody is from. And that way we can also find the chat. Here's the chat. Let me see. Group chat. Here is the chat. Where are you from? So this is how the chat works. If you're not familiar with Zoom, it will light up somewhere orange. And hi Joanna, Scotland, Westlock Albert. Let me see if more people want to share where they're from.
This is phone sense. You record for headphones.
I don't know what's not going through my head.
Some background. Montana, Jennifer from Montana, Quebec City, Canada. I'm from Canada too. I'm in BC, in Chase, a little village between Kamloops and Salmon Arm. Friesland, the Netherlands, love that. I used to live in Groningen in the Netherlands before I moved to Canada. So yes, today, Staffordshire, England. Another Sandra. Hi Sandra. Sandra's better. Welcome everybody. I decided to offer this live Q&A. It will be 90 minutes long. In the middle, I will share a fundraiser to one of my favorite charities. And then I will also have a little story about Kira and a 5-minute shameless commercial plug for my program. But before we go into that, I'm here to answer all your questions about positive reinforcement, and hopefully your topic is positive reinforcement movement training. So if you have a question, I'm here to answer everything that you want to know about it. So does somebody have a question? You can raise your hand or you can say me in the chat. And the purpose today is to answer as many questions as possible. So if you think like I'm having a question, let me know. Okay, we have a question. Joanna, please go ahead in the chat, or if you like, you can unmute yourself, because that works usually better, because sometimes I need a little bit more information. So yeah, go ahead. What's your question?
Hi, Sandra. Thank you. So I really got a lot out of when you were talking about starting the movement, and you showed moving round one obstacle round your bin. But I'm just being a bit dim. How is it easiest then to get to the second one? Do you just put them close together and then spread them out? I just kind of can't quite get from the 1 to 2 to going round a big square.
Yeah, so it depends on your horse, because like if there is something like some behaviors that you previously trained that your horse already can do, use that. It's not like here's my thing and I want to fit your horse into my thing. No, it works best if we use what your horse already can do. So can you send your horse to a cone already, or is there something else that your horse already does that you can think like, oh, I can use that?
Um, not well enough, but he loves mats. So and I've just bought some lovely tall cones after seeing you with them. So I'm thinking that I am actually going to ask him that to actually go to a cone. So I think we will be able to do that because he's
So that's something that you can use. The other, like
yes.
I've a few different shaping plans and setups. So I would like to share that. So if you can have, if you already taught your horse, what's his name?
Archie.
Archie?
Archie, yes.
Archie. So if Archie already can go around one cone or one object, um, it depends on what he doesn't do yet. So if he is not really willing to move without you, because that's where most struggles start. We become the cue because the horse just looks, oh, my trainer is moving, I move. That's my signal. And in at Liberty work, it's so much more convenient if the horse moves when we are not moving, because that way we don't have to trot along and canter along later on. And it saves us a lot of energy and time if we teach that from the beginning. So if you have two cones in a line, then you can send them from cone to cone. And so that's where I would start. And then you can do like 4 cones or more multiple cones. But it also like the reason why I put them in a line then first is to teach your horse to move without, because then you can teach him to the next cone, to cone number 2, and you stand at cone number
Uh,
1, then you
yeah.
click, and then you teach him to receive something at the next cone. And that way he will be focused on the cones because the cone will become part of the cue. So that would be later on, you can put it on other cues if you want, but this will give your horse clarity. The reason why I say put them in a line first is that sometimes people see, I have a little video to share later on today, in which you can see that hippologic rectangle. That's what I call the exercise. But what people sometimes forget is that there is like a process to get your horse there. And then they start with a little square, but a little square is just as hard as a circle. So therefore, I would suggest teach everything, every part of the behavior that is necessary on a straight line, because if you make it really hard physically and even maybe even painful to make sharp turns, exercising will become more and more aversive for your horse, and we want to accomplish the opposite. So I hope you got some ideas.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you. I'll be away to do that, definitely.
And I also have like a little video on YouTube. I'm not gonna look that up right now because I will be caught up in more, but I will, yeah, if you contact me, I will share a video
That's great. Thank you very
of a
much. I'll do that.
line. I think I will share that just in the group
Yeah,
interest in the hippologic program for everybody to see. So yeah.
thank you.
You're muted, Sandra. Sorry. And you've got 2 questions in the chat, and one, Jennifer has her hand raised.
Okay, let's go into in the chat. Hilda, I got the feeling my horse wants more of me. Like I got this trick come on or not asking enough for me, but I want her first to do it right and a few times. How can I motivate more? Okay, I need to read this again. I got the feeling my horse wants more of me. Like I got this trick come on. I don't understand.
Like,
Hilda,
come
please,
on.
please
I got
unmute yourself.
I got this trick. Like, come on. Let's do the next.
Yes. Like
So she's
what
like,
in what context? Do the next what? Do the next cone or
yeah, whatever. Do the next trick or do teach me something new. But I have something you need to do it right first. But she
no?
wants more from me. Is my
Your
feeling.
horse doesn't have to do it right first. Uh, you have to shape it, the behavior, and make it into such small steps that your horse can succeed. Because
Right.
if you're like, that's the beauty of positive reinforcement. We
Oh,
have to offer choices. So the feedback that we get from a horse is if you give your horse choices, which means I click for forward movement, I click for head low, I click for pick some other behaviors. So your horse always has a choice. And then by the choices your horse makes, you will get valuable feedback about what your horse wants and can offer. And then you can build it up from there. If your horse never offers forward movement, but always standing still at a cone or touching a cone, that gives you valuable information. Maybe that's easier for your horse. So if your horse doesn't offer the desired behavior, usually that's an indication of that your horse is confused. It's not clear to your horse what you want, and usually you are making the steps too big. So your horse is like, I don't know what you want. I'll offer something else that has been reinforced in the past. Is that what happens? Does she offer something else?
yeah. When you say it like that, it's like a puzzle that comes together, and I appreciate it very much. Thank you.
You're welcome. Next question, Jess. I see, Jennifer, that you have raised your hand, so we'll get to that. Jess, whenever I click, my horse comes back to stand by my side, and I'm not sure how to stop her doing that and get her to stand still. If you want to unmute, Jess. So what I teach horses is that after the click, they have to stand still and wait because I will deliver the treat. There are multiple techniques that we can implement about when we offer the treat. One is that we teach the horse that the treat will be delivered to their mouth. That's I offer that in key lesson table manners for horses, which is key lesson number one of 6 foundational behaviors. So in that in key lesson table manners, your horse will learn that the treat will always be delivered or will be delivered. So when your horse knows that, your horse doesn't have the need to come towards you and then go stand next to you. However, there are also techniques that you can use where you not deliver the treat right to their mouth, but that's called feeding for position, and you use that where you deliver the treat as a way to get a more behavior. So in movement training, first I teach horses that I will deliver the treat, so they don't have to come towards me, because there will be a struggle later on in at liberty training, because you want to create a distance between you and your horse, and you want to, you know, cue him from a distance about what to do. And if they come towards you every click, then you have to send them away again, which is easier if you skip that part of the behavior. So what I teach is I click and I feed, I click and I feed, and then slowly you can click and increase the distance between you and your horse. And then in the beginning, you click, this is your horse, you clicked, and you immediately bring the treat over. You do that so quickly so that before he moves, he's like, oh, there's a click. And before he can move towards you, you are already there to deliver. And then that way you can increase the distance and teach him to stay and wait until you offer the treat. So in that way, your horse doesn't come towards you whenever you click. Did that help you? Let me know in the chat, or unmute yourself if that made sense. I'll just give you a little moment. Do you see anything in the chat, Georgie? I don't see anything happening.
No. So maybe
Okay.
just go to Jennifer.
Okay, Jennifer, unmute yourself. What's your question?
Thanks. My horse is very well versed in positive reinforcement, and he can do, let's say, a circle at liberty. And what was intriguing about the topic today was the ability to keep him moving and motivated enough that it would be actual exercise rather than just a movement that he knows how to do. Because it seems hard to have enough movement for long enough that would offset the amount of reward that I would be giving in calories to make the exercise worth it. And so how will he maintain motivation when I need him to move a lot for longer and longer and longer periods of time in order to get any exercise out of it, or on a bigger circle, and then not be always stopping to feed and reward for that? So again, he's quite knowledgeable about the positive reinforcement and will do quite a lot, but it seems like the motivation would go down over time.
That's right. If you keep doing what you're doing, and if you become, and that's a little bit of a pitfall for all of us, if we become too predictable in our reward schedule, the horse will just make a conscious decision. Oh, you're asking for trot. I know I will get like one little piece of carrot for that amount of trot. No, not today. But if you, in the beginning, when we're teaching a new behavior, we are on a 100% reinforcement schedule. Everything he does, and all other things too, towards the desired behavior, click, treat. So there will be a lot of yeses, like, yes, here's a treat. Yes, here's a treat. I want to see more of that. But once your horse understands the behavior, and the behavior is on cue, we have to switch over to a variable reward schedule. Because if your horse is guessing, do I get nothing? Do I get the little piece of carrot? Or do I get the handful? What will it be? You know what? I will do more, because, you know, and that way the horse raises his own criteria by offering more. And that way is that there is a tipping point. I don't know if your horse is overweight, but if your horse is overweight in the beginning, that's also one of the things that people don't understand, and professional people like vets don't understand that either, because they think, oh, trick training or treat training, and it's using treats in training. Well, first of all, the treats don't have to be treats as in sugary, so it can be just the calories you can take out of their daily ration. So it doesn't have to add calories. But then in the beginning, when you're teaching your horse new behaviors like walking around cones or doing the hippologic rectangle or hand walking and movement, in the beginning, yes, you will use a lot of clicks and food rewards. However, the purpose is to make exercise a habit, and the cues and the responding to the cues a habit. And that's when we can offer less and less food rewards. So because the food rewards will also disrupt, because it's the click is the end of the behavior basically. So it's disruptive because they stand still, because you want to keep all your fingers when you're feeding your horse. So I would say take a look at your reinforcement schedule and see if it's variable enough, and then build on the duration deliberately, and also see where maybe your approach, I just want to ask you that, did you have like former traditional training in horses?
Oh, yes. Yes, I have been doing traditional training for 38 years. I've only intensively learned positive reinforcement. I dabbled it in the past, but now intensively for 5 months. And so my horse knows it quite well. I just am still thinking about a 10-minute even, or maybe 20-minute, session where, we are wanting to actually get some real exercise out of this. Real exercise, not just hand walking or following me around or liberty leading, which is fine, but not calorie burning exercise. If I'm to get that, how could I build that much duration before the horse is like, this is a lot of work and I'm only getting a little bit of reward. I understand the variable reinforcement, but I'm still thinking about the length of time you need in order to get some true exercise out of it.
Yeah, and again, that's also different for each horse, but there's also like a little bit of a difference in a training session in which you teach a horse something new, and a training session for other purposes, like, building stamina and duration and really exercising. And if we are thinking within the box of traditional training, and I've been traditionally trained, so we think like, okay, 5-minute walk, 10-minute trot, 5-minute walk, 10-minute trot, 5-minute canter, 10-minute trot, and then walk, and then that's the whole training session. And you can do that with negative reinforcement, because it doesn't matter if your horse wants to do it or not, he will do it with negative reinforcement, because we will coerce the horse to do it. In positive reinforcement, so that's why I moved away from circles like in round penning or lunging, because the circles are so hard. So we have to really let go of the traditional way of exercising horses, like 5-minute warm up, 10-minute trot, because I'm sure it's doable to let your horse trot for 10 minutes, but if it is in a circle or a rectangle or a square, it's also very boring unless you can use the exercise in a way that triggers the endorphins and feel good hormones in your horse, because that's when exercise starts to feel good. And if you ever started a running program yourself, I did the from couch potato to 5K, you will notice that in the beginning it's hard. But when you are ready, you will notice that there's a tipping point where the body will be on your side and will make endorphins, and that will also help you in building that duration. And it is quite challenging to figure out where that will be. So it's a long-term challenge. But it's totally possible. But I would say if you want to use exercise, positive reinforcement and exercise, I like to change things, like we do this for 5 minutes and then we do that and then we do that, so it doesn't look anything like traditional lunging for 20 minutes. And what you can do and what you like to do, it totally depends on what exercise your horse likes, but also what your environment likes. So how can we find something that works for you in your environment? Long answer, short question. Does that make any sense? Did you get some new ideas?
Yes, I think maybe, switching up, and I think what you mean is getting out of the mindset of just the lunging principle of going round and round and round. So maybe if I can get him to go around for a little while and then go do something else, he'll still find it motivating.
Yes, exactly. Because like when I started to lunge horses in the traditional way, I figured it was pretty clear that horses don't like it, because when you teach a young horse to lunge, you need a whip to get him away from you, because they will figure out so quickly, ooh, that lunge whip doesn't work if I'm like on top of the trainer. So that's already feedback that we get from horses. The other thing that young horses do, because they don't like to be on the circle, is they move around, they turn around, and then the lunge line is behind their butt. They figure out pretty quickly that we have nothing to say when they do that. So that's why we invented round pens and fences to avoid to have an answer to the answers of our horses. But thinking back about traditional training, yeah, horses didn't like it. And if you didn't have a whip or something aversive, it was almost impossible to let them do that. So yeah, I think circles, and yeah, if you try to start jogging and you start jogging around your own coffee table, you will be sick and tired of small circles pretty quickly. That's why we start outside in straight lines. So that's why I'm like, okay, let's do that and see how we can offer horses straight lines, because I found that way easier for horses to do, because that's a natural behavior. Are there more questions?
Yep, you've got another one in there in the chat.
I think I see.
So just when I ask my horse to move, she moves a step or two, then stops, and then basically demands the treat and won't move. And he'll
Okay.
say, same here.
Yeah, so that is where you build up too much predictability. Now it's a habit. Now your horse demands the treats, because now your horse is saying, we have done this and we have repeatedly done this. So now you do that. So you build up a certain expectation, and you became too predictable. So there's no variable in the reward schedule, and your horse doesn't understand why he suddenly doesn't get anything. And when you introduce your variable ratio reward schedule, you will keep your horse guessing. Ooh, I didn't hear the click. I better do some more because I didn't hear a click. So you want the animal to get into that mind shift of like, if I don't hear a click, I do more, because then I will get a click or something else, because you can also reinforce behavior with other behavior, so it doesn't have to be a click and a treat. But if you stay stuck too long in your, because we are also creatures of habit, and if we stay too long in a certain way, okay, 2 cones and then you get a click. Yeah, of course, if you keep doing that, your horse will be like very confused, like, hey, I did what you asked. Where is it? So by going back, and I always like to raise criteria, but sometimes also like lower them a little bit and then raise them and then lower them and raise them. So instead of asking for more, because that could be the other reason, is if you ask more, that your horse is like, when is it coming? Where's my click? Where's my treat? And if you get to that point, your horse can also kind of refuse to offer because he's like, it will never be enough. I don't know. I'll just quit. And if they demand a treat and won't move, it sounds a little bit like, I don't know when I will get it. So that's the other reason for horses to stop and don't want to move again. Either it's too predictable, so they think like, okay, I have to do this much of exercise for that particular treat and that particular amount, so I decide not to do it. Or it's like, I will almost never get it, so I'll quit. So those are the 2 main reasons. And depending on your horse and the situation, it can be even something else. But that would be like in the academy, I would say like, send in your video. Let's see what happens before this happens. Does it make sense? Do you think you are predictable with your treats, or are you maybe asking a little bit too much and raising your criteria too quickly so that your horse says like, I don't know, let's stop. Let's see, I'm just checking the chat. So for Jess and Hilda, is what are your thoughts? Got some ideas? She also much prefers trotting and will trot for longer than she wants to walk for, and get frustrated if we stay and walk for longer than, oh, I just skipped because somebody else said something. She also much prefers trotting and will trot for longer than she wants to walk for, and gets frustrated if we stay and walk for longer than she thinks we should. It's great for building her fitness, but annoying when we want to do work in walk. Is it possible that lately you have reinforced trot way more often than walk? Because we usually get the behavior that we reinforced a lot lately. Because when your horse, so you can shift that to reinforce trot a little bit less in the coming next sessions, and reward walk a lot. Because you can always go back to trot by changing your reinforcement schedule, and then eventually everything is on cue, and they will, the purpose is that they will trot and walk as long as you don't give any other cues. But it's a common thing that if you reinforced trot more than walk or anything else, that's the behavior that you will get more, because your horse thinks like, that's the bonus behavior, let's offer that more. but you can also, yeah, by shifting towards reinforcing other behaviors a little bit more, see what your horse will choose. And if that doesn't happen, let's see why she wants to trot more. And some horses just love to trot, also depending on the breed. And on previous training, for instance, when I had like a little Hackney pony, and he was it was my free lease horse, and I had him for 6 years. Well, I took care of him for 6 years. I started him under saddle, and then he was sold off. But he was sold to someone who did competitions with him, driving competitions. And Hackneys are famous for their trot. So, traditional way of training. So the for him, the trot became his answer to avoid all other aversives. So if that you could look at your horse's history also to see if there's something that can give you a cue, because it took me a long time to teach my horse when I finally bought him myself and he was mine. He just wanted to trot because trot was the best answer to everything. Because for Hackney in competitions, driving competitions, that's the best option. You have trot. So yeah, it took me a while to shift that. Cindy says, so a click always means end of behavior. Oops, I sometimes click a few times while Jack is walking, so he knows a treat is coming, but I decide when I want to give him a treat. So it's better not to click until I'm ready to give the treat. There are two ways of approaching that. Some trainers use a click as a keep going signal, just to signal the horse you did something right, but you're not getting a treat. I personally, and that's just a personal preference, like to think of a click is end of behavior and then you get a treat. So a click is always a treat, but I don't always click. Like I'm fading out my clicks. And I have, in some situations with some horses, I teach them a keep going signal so they know they're doing something well. And that keep going signal is also reinforced with a primary reinforcer, so something they already love, food, for instance. So if I say keep going, I teach the keep going signal just like I teach a click, but then just fade out the treats. And then I keep the keep going signal as like, keep going, keep going. So yes, I know people who click and don't always give treats, and I see that go very well with very, very experienced trainers. But if it doesn't work for your horse, I would say click and treat, that's the contract, and then offer something else. You can do like verbal praise as a keep going signal, as long as he understands it. But you will see, does he stop when you click? Cindy.
There we go. He does stop, yes. If I don't keep clicking, he'll stop and he'll say, okay, where's my treat? And he'll just plant himself. And I have a cue. It's just like, come. And once he starts walking, and he can walk and poop at the same time, but he can't walk and eat at the same time. So he thinks he needs to stop every time I give him a treat. So then I've got to start it all over again. But I found that if I'm walking and I just keep clicking, he just keeps walking, and then I'll just surprise him with a treat. And that seems to keep him going longer distances better than if I just click, and then feed him, because he'll stop and he'll plant himself there again and look around until he's ready to keep going. and then you'll follow along again.
So yeah, depending on where you're at in your training, but since you are in the academy, send in a video, and we'll go over it because then I can take a look at your training setup, and we'll go from there, and then you can elaborate a little bit more on like I would say if your horse stops because he hears a click, that's absolutely acceptable. Because you taught him the click means this is the behavior I want to see more of, and it's a bridge to bridge the time gap between the behavior they're doing and the time that we need to deliver the treat. So if he's trotting at a distance, the click is such a useful tool, because with the click we can tell him this is what we want to see more of. It's the trot. But we cannot, like, and you just said, like, Jack cannot even walk and eat at the same time, which is totally natural, because usually their food isn't moving. So yeah, and it's safer to feed a horse that is standing still than to feed a horse that is walking or trotting. But like, if you click and your horse keeps moving, it could be that he's thinking, I'm doing the right thing, depending on what you have taught him in the past, and then it's fine. But it can also be that he doesn't understand that the click means a treat is coming. Because if there's too many clicks without food reinforcers, it loses its power. Because eventually a click doesn't mean anything to them. We taught them click means treat, click means treat. So
I haven't gotten a video of this because Jack has been a Houdini lately, and I have no idea where the breach is, but he's been getting out. And thankfully he goes to our neighbor's place, which is a boarding facility. And there's been a couple times now where he just ends up in their outdoor arena. So then I've got to walk him back home. So my landlady went to get him yesterday morning, and he just refused to move for her. And as soon as I showed up, he was better. But yeah, at that point, you just want to get him home.
Oh, I have some, like, I would use targeting for that and make the target so strong it becomes a horse magnet. I have like some videos of Kira that I can show you. Because basically what you do, if you have you taught Jack targeting?
A little bit, but not much. I've been teaching him more to stand at the pylon, to stand still at a pylon.
Because if we work on the targeting, you would just wave your target stick and he will come running.
I'm sold. Thank you.
Well, you're already in the academy, so yeah. But yeah, let's work on that. And that's also, yeah, targeting is one of the 6 foundational lessons that we will be working on. And targeting is super powerful because you can use it to train so many other behaviors, like a recall. And the way you do that, I'll just give a quick shaping plan. You teach your horse to target, so you teach your horse to touch an object, like a ball on a stick. And then instead of saying touch, you can call his name, depending on what behavior you want to teach him. But then you can wave your target, and that will be his visual cue, because it will be so strong. Oh, touching the target will mean click and treat. Oh, that's nice. So when he sees that, his brain will choose to move towards the target, because that has become a habit. And I'll tell you about my minis, Fionn and Odin. And since they are meanies, they're also Houdinis. And the first time they escaped, they were so confused because they ran away and then they stopped. So I click for stopping because that's behavior that I want, because in order to approach them and catch them, or at least halter them, I need to approach them. So stopping is great. So Odin was like, oh, that click, that meant something good. I don't know. And Fionn was like, oh no, I'm probably not getting a treat. So Odin was, haltered very easily. He got a halter on, click, treat. I did nothing with a lead rope. And then I asked him to touch my hand, and he followed, click, treat. And that way, after a few clicks and treat, I put the lead rope on because I had two. And then I led him into the paddock. He got lots of treats and bonus, and Fionn was like, I don't trust this. You will come chase me. And I'm like, no. You stand there 5 meters ahead, and I clicked. Here's a treat. And you could really see his face like, this is not normal. So eventually he came and he got a treat. And then I clicked again and I gave another treat. He was so confused. He was so conflicted because he wanted to run, but he also wanted to treat. And he didn't understand that I didn't caught him because he was so cautious. I'm like, I'm not going to catch you. I'll just ask you to come a few steps towards the gate. So he did. And then I was like, oh, you see this halter? You want to put your head in? And he was like, let's try it. So he moved towards the halter, click, treat. He was like, huh? The halter isn't even on. So click, treat, click, treat. There were like lots of treats going in that day. So I halted him. And he got more treats. And then I eventually slowly led him back to the paddock where he got more treats. So the second time he escaped, just because I left the gate open, he was like, oh, I like this. Because, yeah, his freedom is so precious to him. But yeah, you can absolutely, clicker training is the best. So yeah, there's so many ways, and I have some videos to show of Kira. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
It will be fun.
Yeah. Thankfully, when I approach him with the halter, he's easy to halter. He comes right over and it's like, hey, mom. But I think he's been out there all night by the number of poops that he left in the arena. So I've got to figure this out.
Yeah, you will. Absolutely. Well, thankfully he escapes to a safe space. Okay. Before we go to the next question, he will be my shameless plug for the Hippologic Academy, and I want to share my story of Kira and how I got to this point where I'm teaching positive reinforcement movement training. I got a little video for you to watch too. Can everybody see this, my screen? Okay. So because of Kira, I really specialized since 2016 in positive reinforcement movement training, exercising your horse with clicker training. Kira, I got Kira in 2009 when she was just out of the nature reserve. The top left photo is the day she arrived at my boarding facility. She was over threshold, covered in sweat because we had to trailer her. It was a long road journey story. Anyway, she's a crossbreed between Exmoor and Andalusian. And in the top right picture, thanks to mat training, she was one of the youngsters that was one of the best horses, together with the other clicker trained horses, that wanted to step on the scale. So I weighed her and she was 425 kilos and she was already a little bit chubby back then. She was about 13-ish hands. So that's like 140 centimeters withers height. Her friend, which you can see here on the left, the middle horse, the Arab, was 10 centimeters higher and 25 kilos lighter. So yeah, so over the years she gained more and more weight, but I didn't know how to get it off with positive reinforcement. So I kind of figured something out, and then I stopped and I started and I stopped and I started. And she kept growing and growing and get fatter and fatter. And I was worried, but I was keeping myself like, she's fat and happy, she's fat and happy, until she wasn't. So then in 2016, when she got laminitis, I was, of course, shocked, devastated, and the vet said, no more treating, you have to start lunging her, and he told me to put her on a crash diet. I know that crash diets don't work, so, and adding more stress to a horse that has laminitis, which is inflammation in their feet, stress and inflammation don't go well together. So I wanted to make her as happy as possible, because stress just doesn't contribute to reducing that inflammation. And I'm really, really big on welfare for animals due to my education. So I had to figure out how to make her fit and happy. And I wanted to do that with positive reinforcement. So I was really pushed into that positive reinforcement exercise, and I decided to start where she was at. So this is what she looked like in July 2016. She had really so much fat on her bum. She had even cellulitis. Her flanks were really filled. She had fat on her ribs, fat patches behind the shoulder, a very crusty neck. And I was telling myself, oh, that's her Andalusian side. And she was tired, reluctant to move. That's why it was so hard, and that's why I started exercising her, and then I stopped, because she was basically depressed and very reluctant to move. And sometimes I was so jealous of traditional people. They just went out and rode their horses for an hour, yes, with whips and spurs, and the horses weren't happy. So then I realized, nah, I don't want that. So yeah, it was really, really hard. I made a lot of changes, and without any support, I couldn't have done it. I had a lot of support. I didn't do this on my own. So I started really figuring out, because my back was against the wall, and how can I make her move? Because movement is so important in keeping any horse healthy, but a laminitis horse that is also diagnosed with equine metabolic syndrome, exercise is just so important. So we started hand walking, and we started where she was at, and our 20-minute hand walks when she had laminitis was more about standing still and waiting for her to offer forward movement than anything else. So yeah, the first few days I got a strict training plan, 20 minutes of walk, and then click and treat every forward movement she offered. So if we went 100 meters and then it took us like 7 minutes or 10 minutes to get back, that was just it. And I was like, this is where she starts, this is where we are at. But over a period of a week, I saw so much progress already. She started to offer more movement. Of course, she was already clicker trained for so many years, which made it really easy. The grass around alongside the road was really long and juicy, because we lived in Vancouver, BC. And that was very enticing. But because I did grass training the year before, I was surprised that even when she was on a restricted diet, she still didn't pull me towards the grass, which that blew my mind. I had to do a lot of other things to do, like muzzle training. So yeah, and that was a very costly thing to have a sick horse. Here's a little video of eventually I developed the hippologic rectangle, because circles are really, really hard on the body. I didn't start with these long lines. I built it up. Let's see a little bit. And each and every behavior you see is a gem in itself. Like, look how she really bends and uses her inner hind leg. You can train your horse to do walk, trot, canter on cue. You don't have to run along. And in this exercise, I'm walking way more than I do now. So yeah, everything is on cue, and it's such a fun way to exercise your horse. So yeah, straight lines is really, really important, because if your horse is already reluctant to move, don't make it any harder, because it's hard enough for your horse. And start small. Don't start with this setup, because this is the end result of a training program. Things like, yeah, wait, stay with me. These are all things that you can use in the daily interaction with your horse. It's always hard to get to the next one. So here's before and after. Kira in July, 1 month before she got laminitis, and then in October, only a few months later, she already looked like this. And October is autumn, and in autumn we have mud and shorter days. So every season brings different challenges to exercise your horse. So in short, here's Kira 1 year later, because I kept going at it, because I got so much good results. This was really, really reinforcing to keep going. And I was just super afraid that she would get laminitis again. She never got laminitis again in all those years after her laminitis attack. And my keys to success were really having a clear plan, consistency and support in order to keep that consistency going. Because if you want to lose weight, it's not a matter of 1 week or 2 weeks. It's a journey, and you can turn it into a fun journey and make it win-win if you use positive reinforcement. And you learn so much. And really, her laminitis in hindsight was such a bonding experience, and it could have been so different, because I spent so much time, especially the first 3 months with her. But there is a tipping point. So eventually, 1 year later, I only did like I did a lot of long reins and work in hand with her, and with 3 times a week for 20 minutes, and having like proper management, like group housing and other things to keep her happy, and a diet that suited her lifestyle. Is that I didn't have to ride her an hour each day, but like, yeah, 3 exercise trainings a week for about 20 minutes was enough to keep her in shape. I didn't know that, because, you know, when she was so fat, yeah, you have to do more. So this is what the Academy program looks like. The Confident Clicker Trainer is my foundation program. It takes you from confused to clarity, and it will teach you all the things you need to know, like how to make shaping plans, and it teaches your horse 6 foundational lessons Table manners is one of them. Targeting, that I already spoke about, is another. So that comes back every season. In spring, movement has challenges. There's grass. So I offer my online course, Grass Training, in spring. And in grass training, you teach your horse to ignore grass, to graze on cue, and to stop grazing on cue as well. And that really was so super helpful when Kira got laminitis, because she didn't pull me towards the grass. So in summer, there's other challenges, but we also want to do other things, like challenges can be hot temperatures. How do you exercise your horse when it's super hot? But also trails and trailering are something extra that you can do in summer. Trails and trailering are things that we cover, like what do you do if your horse has separation anxiety, if you need to trailer your horse because you want to go onto a trail, all that kind of things. In autumn, there's other challenges because usually there's mud, days are getting shorter. Things like husbandry skills are very, very useful. So I called it From Haltering to Hoof Cleaning because I love alliteration. But yes, then there's time to focus more on that, because the more you do the husbandry skills, the better you can connect with your horse. And in winter, there's also more challenges, like shorter days, freezing cold. How do you train your horse? Well, I moved to Chase, so I have like minus 20 degrees Celsius here. So I had to figure that out. Or what do you do when the ground is frozen? But there's so much things that you can do. In the winter, I will offer some clicker challenges, which are always a lot of fun. And it's all centered around your personal goals in the Academy. If you want to join the Academy, there's a link to an application form. That was my shameless plug for the Hippologic Academy. Stop share. Let's get back to the questions.
Do you want me to give you the question from back
yes,
at the
please.
top? Okay.
Yeah.
All right, because there's a couple we missed here. Okay, so for the last couple of weeks, my horse is moving, so yay. But when she trots, her ears are pinned back. Do you have any insights on that? And that's from Helene.
Yeah, so when it ears back can mean many things. Let's start with that. So depending on what it means to your horse, so let's go, like, it can be like some horses, like Kira, and maybe I'm not sure if I can generalize this, but I see that mares do that more often than geldings. I don't know why. I don't know if it's just a coincidence. Is your horse a mare? And so sometimes, like, what do you mean by pinning? Because if it is really pinning, it means that they flatten and close their ears and put them back to their neck. That is officially, in horse behavior language, pinning their ears. If that's the case, I would say could be aggression, could be frustration, or fear, which can switch to aggression. If they are just turned backwards, the ears just in the or sideways, and they're not looking happy, it could also be a signal that they are just concentrating on what they're doing and thinking. But it all depends on how the ears are moving to each other. Is one more forward? Are they like backwards the same? Does she always do that? And the other signals that you're getting from your horse, because I can imagine that you ask me this question because you figure out that your horse is not happy about what she's doing. Is that the case?
You hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Right. I've got a feeling it's more like frustration. They're pretty much back, both.
Okay.
and not moving at the time. So as soon as I click and we stop, her ears are forward and she's looking happy again. So I'm not sure if it's a purely frustration or maybe something I taught her involuntarily.
Usually, that's could be, but usually with the ears because they're so expressive. Like back in the years, Alexandra Kurland taught happy faces, which meant that you taught your horse to have their ears forward.
Yeah.
I tried that. No, it was super, super difficult to really teach that, to be honest. So if you think it's frustration, I bet it's frustration because there's other signals. It's not only the ears, it's the tail swishing. If they have like wrinkles around their nostrils, like if they look like that and you copy that facial expression, you will feel what they feel. And if they do like, that's what Kira did. I could literally see when I was lunging her, because the first 2 days I started lunging her when she got laminitis because the vet told me she didn't want to, and I really saw those wrinkles. If your horse is frustrated, I would go back to clearing and addressing those feelings too before you start something else. Because if that frustration becomes too much associated with exercise, you don't really want to make exercising aversive because there's so much frustration going on. Frustration is solved by offering clarity.
Okay.
If that makes sense. Like, and then it's like, do you also see frustration in, if you think about her frustration and that face that she makes, like the ears back, do you see that in other situations too?
No, not really. No.
And when does it start?
Basically as soon as I ask her to trot.
And does she do the same thing in walk?
Sometimes, not always. I've tried last year. I've tried to cut it back to go to one step treat, one step treat, and that worked for 2 days, and then it didn't work anymore.
So yeah, it could be clarity. That like often in these cases, I would love to see a video to see what happens before it happens, because that's usually where we need to pay attention to. The horse can be frustrated if we are on a very predictable reinforcement schedule and then suddenly change it. Then it's like, I should get a treat right now. And then they get frustrated. But they can also get frustrated by something else. If your horse, for instance, is traditionally trained and already has like strong aversive feelings towards the training area, that's also something that you could take a look at. Is your horse traditionally trained?
Yeah. But at the same time, she when I arrive, she comes herself to the how do you call it, the training place?
Arena?
Arena. Yeah, she comes to the arena and stands there at the entrance saying, "Let's get in."
Okay, well, that's a good sign.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I would really say, like, it would be interesting to see, to make a video of that and to see where does it start? Where does that frustration start?
Yeah.
And that sometimes we forget about that. That could be like trigger stacking. So something happened, they're not happy, something else happened, they're not happy, something else happened, and then they start like, now I'm not happy. But maybe before that, some things were already happening that we didn't see in, because it happens before the training, because sometimes we are so focused, like, okay, now we start to train. Oh, she's suddenly frustrated. How did that happen? But if we didn't meet their expectations 5 minutes before our training session started, then maybe sometimes it's easy to solve there. Or what also can happen is that they can really get frustrated because our treats are too high in value.
Yeah.
And it means too much. So sometimes it really helps to offer a little bit lower value treats, and then raise your reinforcement schedule. So click and treat more often and be more generous until there is no more frustration, until you have given your horse enough clarity about what to do, what to expect, how to do it, how long to do it, and then slowly fade out the treats, and maybe then you can put in a little bit higher value, lower value treats and mix them up, so there's not so much predictability going on. But that is very individual how you would do that. That's not like, okay, here's how you do it, because I don't work with rules, I work with principles. And the principle is that you have to look at your horse and see what works for your horse. So do you think your food reinforcers are high value to your horse?
No, it's simple hay pellets.
Okay.
She's fat, so so it's not high value.
Do you feed your horse before training?
She gets hay 24/7.
Okay. Because those are could also be reasons to become upset and frustrated. If like, never clicker train a hungry horse. So if a horse gets really easily frustrated, I would say, like, feed before you train, but your horse already has 24/7 forage. So that's probably not it. So yeah, it would be a little bit of a detective work to see what is going on with your horse. What do you think makes her frustrated?
I will take your advice to make videos of the whole training session.
Yeah, and then when you look back at them, it will give you a lot of information, and then it might give you ideas like, oh, maybe this is it. And then you go figure it out, and then try it out, and then you see if it works.
It's really
But
puzzling.
usually,
sometimes she offers the trots and then still has her ears back. So
yeah, and that could be another language, or no, that could have another meaning for ears back. Like, maybe the ears back is frustrated if it's walk, but she pins her ears, or she turns her ears back for another reason in trot. So like, then I would say, like, is trot difficult? How's the footing of the arena? Is it heavy sand, or is it like, and how does your horse trot without outside training? Like, does she pin her ears, or does she move her ears in a similar way when she's with other horses?
good questions. I will have to check that out. I don't know.
It's all individual. So yeah, so the more information you have, the more you have to work with, and the more you can rule out. And then sometimes it's just, if they always have their ears like that, then you can say, maybe there's some pain going on and we have to look into that. Like, there's so many reasons, but my philosophy is there's always a solution and there's always an answer. And even if we cannot find a reason, your horse has a reason. So yeah, keep doing the detective work.
Yeah, I will do that. Thank you so much.
Okay, you're welcome.
One more from up ahead. So to get a horse out of freeze, what can we do best? And this one had a few sort of thumbs up for it. So I think it's a popular question.
Okay, tell me more about the freeze, because the freeze from behavioral standpoint is freeze, fight, or flight. And if that is the freeze that you are referring to, that means that your horse is very, very, very much over threshold. So I just want to check in with you what do you mean with freeze?
And that was Hilda.
Hilda, because it can also be like lost in translation thing.
Hi, me again. Well, my mare, when I open up her paddock stable situation, we have to go to the barn, through some other stables with other horses, and the moment she steps outside, and we don't do the hooves or maintaining, she freezes, and we target like touch, click, few steps, touch, clip, but she's completely zoned out.
So,
We call it a freeze.
So it's probably not the freeze that happens when your horse is so fearful that they just play dead, basically. But what happens is, before she has to pass the other horses, she freezes up and stands still?
Yes, and do the when we go, like sometimes it feels like a little bit manipulation, but likewise it's also like the eye contact is she's zoning out.
Yeah. So what you could do is just wait. Don't ask her to target, give her time, because again, videos would give me so much more information, because in a video the horse would give me information. But from your story, if there's a hesitation to pass those other horses, is it in a hallway? Is it in het gangpad van een stal?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay. So it's in the aisle of a barn. So
yes.
What happens is most of the horses that are locked up are not happy horses. So everything that happens is some horses find it fun to bite other horses in their bum, or it's their highlight of the day. Something finally is happening in their environment that is very poor in stimulus. So it could be that there's a fear factor in your horse that she doesn't want to pass those other horses, and it really depends on the individual's horses so I would, first of all, I would start paying attention which horse is she the most afraid of, and is she afraid? Is that the reason? Because the other thing that could have happened is that we have made it out of a chain of behaviors. I do this, you do that, I do that, and then you do that, and then I get a click and a treat. I stand still, you get your target, you ask me to target, you click and treat. And that can also become a habit and a behavioral loop that your horse thinks, oh, we are moving through the aisle. I'll have to stand because then I get the target, and then I get a click, and then I get a treat. So that could be a possibility. But if your horse is fearful, I would see what horse is she most afraid of to pass. So she either doesn't want to move and approach that horse, or when she has approached it, she starts moving faster to get have that done as quickly as possible. Is that what she also does, or is she just not wanting to move forward in the aisle?
The aisle is an obstacle run for her because of the horses. We are located at a foundation who have got shelter horses, als ik het goed zeg. And they're all horses with problems.
Oh, rescue horses.
Rescue horses, yes.
Mhm.
And yeah. So yeah, she's like a mother hen and wants to take care. Hey, wants to take care of everybody, but yeah, she
So
can't.
yeah, what I would do is figure out what horses is she most afraid of. Sometimes it really helps to wait until your horse moves forward. So you wait until your horse makes the decision without you enticing her with a target, and then reinforce that decision. Or another solution could be like, if you know, okay, she's very afraid of that particular horse, or that particular horse tries to bite her, or because you have to look at the friendships and connections between those horses and your horse. What you also can do is, like, maybe it's an option to give every horse a little bit of like something to do, like a handful of hay. So you could start walking with your horse through the aisle without being harassed, or that your horse feels like, oh, something can happen.
Yeah.
And then that would be the first step, until eventually the purpose would be that you could just halter your horse and walk on through the aisle without stopping.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, one more? Probably have time for one more? Okay.
Yeah, we have 8 more minutes, so.
Okay. My horse is very wise to notice when I get the treat pouch and target out, and as soon as the mat comes out, and I'm not yet ready to get the training session started. He goes willingly to the mat without asked. So do I offer a click and a reward, or what? This is from Val.
Okay, well, in the beginning, we want to reinforce every step towards our goal behavior, and we want to give our horse as much information as possible. However, there's also a point that we want to put a cue on behavior. I'm so tempted to look that up, but it will take me a little bit too much time. But there is on my Hippologic YouTube channel, there is a video that is called, I think it's called Training a Behavior. So there's different steps in teaching training a behavior. So in the beginning, like the first few sessions, I click everything. But once the horse knows, standing on a mat is the purpose, I will start clicking for other things too, like ignoring the mat, stepping over the mat without stopping, stepping off of the mat. So that will also keep your horse guessing, like what will be leading to a click and a food reinforcer. And that's the perfect moment to teach cues, because the cue, step on the mat or walk on, gives the horse very valuable information, because it gives the horse information about if he can expect reinforcement. Like if you say walk on and he stops on the mat, like, nope, I'm always getting a treat here.
Yes.
No, because I told you to walk on, and I have taught you the cue for walk on and ignore the mat before. It's not like suddenly rule change. So the cue will give your horse information. We also have to understand how learning works, because your horse, it will take a while before your horse will stop offering stepping onto the mat when there is a mat inside, in his sight. Because you never know. I touch it. Maybe it bring luck. I touch it.
Oh, that is
So
exact.
that is called an extinction burst. So if there is behavior and we ignore the behavior, in other words, we don't reinforce the behavior will become worse. And
Oh,
then
dear.
if we don't reinforce it, eventually it goes down. And what is also very natural is that it will up once more. And
Oh,
that's also a natural pattern. It's like, does it really not bring luck? I touch it one more time, you know. I almost lose hope for a treat, but one more time. Oh, and now it's reinforced. So now you just strengthen that behavior that you want to go let extinct. And that
okay.
is very, very tricky. So in order to help your horse, because when your horse is going through that extinction burst, he's very, very frustrated. Like, touch, it doesn't help, touch again.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Which means when your horse gets in that mental state, I call it, he gets out of learning mode because he's focused on one thing. Where's the treat? Where's the treat? Where's the treat? So by the time your horse is frustrated, it's hard to move him towards a relaxed state and get him back into learning mode. There are techniques for it, and the more you do it, the easier your horse will switch from this emotional state to another emotional state.
Good. Yeah.
But knowing that what you're doing by ignoring it is you are creating that frustration. So in the beginning, because you are in this kind of loop together
Yeah.
with your horse,
Yeah.
I would suggest try to avoid having that situation where your horse can offer that behavior unasked and only get the mat out when you're working with the mat. And then also spend a few sessions on we reinforce everything but the mat. So
Okay.
offer your horse choice. Okay, you're standing on the mat. Oh, let's target. Oh, click.
I was just gonna
Let's
say
move.
target. Yeah.
Yeah, let's move off of the mat. And especially moving off of the mat, I would really reinforce that. So now there's so much other options, and then put a cue on mat training as quickly as possible. So your horse will have information, and then they will think like, you didn't ask for it. So eventually probability of a treat are zero. So you don't get to
Yeah.
that extinction burst because your horse has information. Didn't ask for it.
Yeah.
Touch
Well,
it.
I'm
Nothing
exactly, and then
happens.
I try to keep building the obstacle course. So it's like, okay, so I target and he comes over, and that's what I was wondering. Should I treat him right at the mat because that's positive? He's there. He's doing something. Or do I ignore it and bring him over with the target to like the first cone or something?
Yeah, so I would start like kind of like from the beginning, like, okay, this is a mat. I introduce the cue and cue that, but also once he's on the mat, reinforce stepping off of the mat.
I was just gonna say, yeah, could I do that? If he's on the mat, reinforce him if I ask him to step off and then carry on.
Yeah.
It's almost like he's doing something correct, but it's not what I wanted at the moment. So now you step off, then I will, it will mark and treat.
Yeah, because if we use the mat as a only chance to get a treat, of course he will keep at it. But if we offer more choices, your horse has more opportunities, so he won't be as focused on the mat, because there will be a day that we think like, I told you not to step on the mat. I didn't ask for it. I don't want to give you that treat.
I know.
We
I
are,
don't want
we
to
are
be
humans.
negative. And sometimes when he steps on that mat, he will touch it and try to figure like anything. I'll do anything. And I get the same situation when I have a tub there and he's not, getting attention from me. So he'll go, and I'm not even training him at the moment. He'll go put his feet in his hooves and his front feet in the tub. I'm thinking, do I ignore him? Yeah, I don't know what to do there either. But I mean, because it is something well, if I put my feet in here, because I asked him to step in something and step off something, step up and step down. So he's a pretty clever fella, but he's actually a slow thinker. So when I was hearing all the ones people are asking about, he's not walking with me. He just, he sticks his feet in the ground, thinking, yeah, I know that kind of. So someone told me, give him time to think.
Yeah, absolutely. That's also because we are a talkative species. So for us, verbal cues are so easy. Horses are less talkative. So for them, they pay more attention to our body language, but if we are like a little bit like not conscious about what we're doing all the time. But for instance, in the course, the Confident Clicker Trainer, you can also buy that as a standalone do-it-yourself course, but that also covers how to train a behavior. And I like to almost from the first or the second or the third 5-minute session of training a behavior, I also start to incorporating the opposite behavior. So if I start teaching targeting, I also reinforce ignoring the target, because it is so handy. And by the time you put a verbal cue on targeting, on touch, your horse already knows that not touching will also has a chance of being reinforced.
Oh boy,
so
yeah.
He will think about that, and then you can say, I don't know, ignore or touch, and he knows already what those behaviors are because you already have reinforced them, which makes you give your horse more clarity because you have offered those choices already.
And sometimes in that situation, if I don't want him to touch it, then if I say yes to him, I don't want him to touch the target, but I just want him to stand still. And if I say yes, then I'll pet him because he hasn't touched the target because I don't want him to. Is that okay? I use target, I use clicker, or I use yes as my markers. But that's probably confusing him too much, isn't it? I think so.
I would stick with, you can use multiple markers. It doesn't have to be a problem, but I would be aware of when you use what and how your horse responds to it.
Yeah, I don't want to mix them up, and that's bad enough trying to get him to understand and to agree on something. I don't want to mix them up again, so no, I'll just stay with the clicker. Or if I don't have the clicker, then I do the marking of the yes, whichever. Not both.
Excellent.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. So we have come to an end. Next Monday, I will have a masterclass teaching a horse scent, how to teach your horse to start teaching him to move away from you without aversives. And then next month, there's another Q&A. And in the meanwhile, I have 20 spots for people that want to come into the academy. The weekly coaching sessions are like this, only with videos. So we can learn a lot. Every member gets one personal training video coaching session a week. So that limits my amount of members that I will allow. And first I'll open up 20 more spots. And that's it. Happy horse training. You are the trainer.